Hello, ma'am. Good afternoon, good day, and good be with you. So, I will be discussing the following: the theories of why imagery works, Psychoneuromuscular Theory, Symbolic Learning Theory, Attention and Arousal Set Theory, Imagery Perspective, and Sensory Mode. Okay, so let's start with the theories of why imagery works. Okay, so while a great deal of research has been published relative to the effectiveness of imagery and mental practice in sport psychologists know very little about the reason they are effective or how they work. Why should mentally practicing or imaging a physical task result in improved learning and performance? Number of possible explanations to this basic question have been proposed. We will be discussing three theoretical explanations, and they are psychoneuromuscular theory, symbolic learning theory, and attention and arousal set theory. Psychoneuromuscular theory posits the imagery results in subliminal neuromuscular patterns that are identical to the patterns used during actual movement, even though the imagined event does not result in an overt movement of the muscles. Subliminal efferent commands are sent from the brain to the muscles. In a sense, the neuromuscular system is given the opportunity to practice a movement pattern. Psychoneuromuscular theory is the most plausible explanation for why imagery facilitates physical performance and learning. The psychoneuromuscular formulation holds that during imagery of overt motor acts, there are minute innervations, identical in pattern but weaker in magnitude of the involved muscles. So that is the psychoneuromuscular theory. Next, we have the symbolic learning theory. Symbolic learning theory differs from psychoneuromuscular theory. The symbolic learning theory states that mental practice and imagery works because the individual literally plans her actions in advance. Motor sequence, task, goals, and alternative solutions are considered cognitively before a physical response is required. Symbolic learning view was originally put forth by Sackett, who speculated that symbolic rehearsal, the acquisition and subsequent rehearsal of symbols that represent patterns to overt moments, will facilitate the learning of skills in which cognitive factors are predominant. Okay, so that is under the symbolic learning theory. Next, we have the attention and arousal set theory. Attention and arousal set theory combines the cognitive aspects of symbolic learning theory with the physiological aspects of psychoneuromuscular theory. According to this theory, imagery serves to improve performance in two ways. From physiological perspective, imagery may help the athlete to adjust his arousal level for optimal performance. From a cognitive perspective, imagery may help the athlete to selectively attend to the task at hand. If the athlete is attending to a task-relevant image, she or he is likely to be distracted by irrelevant stimuli. Attention and arousal set formulation attempts to incorporate both cognitive and physiological aspects of imagery rehearsal. In this view, it is suggested that during imagery rehearsal, an athlete may learn to set his or her physiological arousal at an optimal level. Cognitively, imagery may help bring attention to task-relevant thoughts and away from task-irrelevant ones, which may disrupt performance. Because the attention arousal set theory has not been explicated in detail, it is difficult to make a priori predication based upon it. While intuitively appealing, this view has not been empirically examined. Critical evaluation, therefore, is impossible. So we're going to discuss now the imagery, perspective, and sensory mode. Okay, so there are two factors to take into consideration when discussing the use of imagery by athletes. First is the perspective from which imagery is practiced, and second is the sensory mode from which imagery is experienced. Moving on to imagery perspective. There exist two perspectives from which imagery can be applied. The two imagery perspectives are internal and external. In internal imagery, the athlete imagines herself executing a sports task from within body. For example, shut your eyes and imagine for a moment that you have a basketball in your hand and you are preparing to shoot a free throw. If your perspective at this moment is from within your body looking forward to the basket, this is an example of internal imagery. Conversely, external imagery is very unnatural to us. In external imagery, we imagine ourselves to be outside of our body watching from a distance. So let's take a basketball free throw example again. Shut your eyes and imagine you are going to shoot a free throw. This time, imagine that you are outside your body watching yourself from a distance. So it is an example of external imagery. So external imagery provides an excellent perspective from which to observe skills, technique, and form. We might assume that internal imagery is superior to external imagery because it is more natural to us. Okay, so let's move on to the sensory mode. Okay, so kinesthetic sensitivity informs the brain about movements in the joints and in the muscles. Both internal and external imagery utilize all five of the body senses, although different sports skills may benefit from one perspective than from another one. Okay, so it has generally been believed, however, that internal imagery utilizes kinesthetic sensitivity to a greater degree than external imagery. So that ends my report about the theories of why imagery works. Thank you so much. Have a great day.